got a guy like that, that's built like that, the 6'4", that we got to translate and all that.
They got Jordan Davis last season. They bring Fletcher Cox back in the Philly. So I'm sitting there like, we need to put something on this offensive line to combat that. Today we will be hitting on the most important news in the league, and that's the Dallas Cowboys news. So I kind of want to hit you off the top with something I heard the other day and something I've been thinking about, and that is the hype behind the Denver Broncos and the lack of hype behind the Dallas Cowboys. So you get Sean Payton over in Denver, which is very exciting. You know, it's very exciting news. And then you have Mike McCarthy going into year 4 now with Dallas, I believe.
Yeah.
And the difference between the two to me is not as significant as I think the media is making it out to be. Sean Payton has won 1 Super Bowl, so has Mike McCarthy. And in my opinion, Mike McCarthy has won a lot of playoff games as well. He's attended the playoffs a lot. So has Sean Payton. And the difference there I don't really see as that big. I think the biggest difference was one had Drew Brees and one had Aaron Rodgers. So am I missing something here between the hype behind Denver and the hype behind Dallas?
Yeah, I would have to say so. I don't know what it is about Denver. Like for me, it's not. I don't get it. Maybe it's a national media thing. Maybe it's a new shiny toy. I do think Sean Payton will go over there and knock some things. I will say that. You know, what I mean, offensive minded coach. But you know, with Mike McCarthy, like I don't know. I just think with Dallas being where we are, it's kind of like we know who we are, and I think more so they need to speculate what's going on over there. But they got a lot to worry about, man. That division is tough. I don't really know if they done to improve that team over there. You know what I mean? So no, I'm not saying it, but if you look at both coaches, like your Super Bowl winning coaches, I think you know what I mean, outside of that, they had Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. One had Drew Brees, one had Aaron Rodgers. Now one has, would you say, similar quarterbacks and how they compare them into you know, a Dak and a Russell Wilson. So we'll see. But just looking at it from a whole, I expect a lot more out of Dallas this year than I would say a Denver Broncos team. I think they have a lot to work through. Still got a fairly young team over there, a lot to figure out. But with us, I just, you know what I mean, it is what it is. It's Dallas, you know what I mean? They're going to talk about us in a negative light. You know, it's clickbait, however you want to view it. It just kind of is what it is at this point.
Okay. And then, you know, we talked about it the other day where pretty much Jonathan Hankins came out talking about Mozzie Smith, man. And he had nothing but great things to say. Now, Jonathan Hankins isn't like the biggest name in the league.
Yeah.
But when you hear a veteran talking up a young boy like that, you know, it gets the juices flowing, and that's exciting. So going into year 1 for Mozzie Smith, you know, what are your expectations for him? What do you want to see?
Honestly, man, I just want him to solidify this whole middle of this defense, man. It's something we've been missing it for a long time, but it's also something that we got a taste of once we got a Jonathan Hankins. Crazy you say his name. Once we got Hankins in there, he was able to just kind of change the whole dynamic. We've seen LVE play a lot better. We've seen DeMar Clark and all these linebackers and everybody around, and that run defense that everybody was heavily criticizing. We've seen them turning around, and nobody wants to talk about that. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? I think once they got that and realized, like, once Hankins went out, you know what I mean, the difference that he had, they said we got to get another one of these type of guys. And just Dan Quinn knowing, you know what I mean, he knows what he wants, you know what I mean? That's one thing about Dan Quinn. He been piecing this thing up together for a long time. But as far as Mozzie Smith, you hear it, man. You hear how excited Micah was draft night when they got Mozzie.
Right.
Picking that phone up and actually texting DQ and saying, hey, you know what I mean, I want Mozzie. You know what I mean? I think that says a lot. You know what I mean? So what I'm expecting from him is to open up things for people like Micah. You know what I mean? If he's in the inside and he's pushing that pocket, and a guy like Micah is already getting, you know what I mean, double team, and they sending attention over there, somebody's going to eat.
Sure.
Hankins may eat. Olsen may eat. The linebacker's going to get some free lanes to eat. Donovan Wilson may get some chances to come in and you know what I mean, smack some people around a little bit more. And I think as a whole, if this run defense is good, then that means for me, long second downs. Long second downs, potentially long thirds down. Long third down packages, you already know, man. So we eating. We was already up there in sacks this year. It might be a crazy year, man. So I think Mozzie in general coming in, just hearing like, hey, man, he's strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I heard it all last year about Tyler Smith. You know what I mean? It was like Tyler Smith is strong. I'm like, damn, when a young guy come in the league and they're already talking about your strength, and when a guy put his hands on you, it's different. It's different from a guy that's been in the offseason program and working out and he got to build up. But a guy that's naturally strength, like one of those country, you know what I mean, big country fellas is actually strong like that. I've heard Zach Martin speak of it. I've heard Jonathan Hankins talk about it. You hear DQ rave about it. I think in general, man, we haven't seen it yet, but I think it's something to that, man. I think they're very excited about Mozzie this year.
No, for sure. I see too. Von Miller has the pass rush summit, and I see Tyler Smith and Micah Parsons in there working. And I want to say too, I love that these players do these camps with the other players in the league. The
It's
NFL is
dope.
very different than it once was, where it was like our team versus your team and nothing else. Like it is like one big team, at the end of the day. And Von Miller, I'm sorry, Micah, I would say is the closest thing to a Von Miller that Dallas has probably ever had outside of DeMarcus Ware. But I think, Micah is like the modern version of a DeMarcus Ware. So talk to me a
So,
bit about your thoughts with that pass rush summit.
no, I mean, I love it, man. I love that these players are doing it. Like you said, it seems like it's a nice brotherhood going on. I think it's the third year they've been doing it. And I think, Micah has definitely taken a liking to Von Miller. I think he spoke out about him when he was even a free agent last year. He was one of the guys who was like, hey, can we get a Von Miller over here? And just hearing how he's working with him, he's talking to him like, when I use my spin move, I'm doing this. And Vaughn is talking to him like, well, when I use my spin move, before I use my spin move, I'm kind of coordinating with my defensive tackles to let them know like I'm doing this. And Michael, like, oh damn, I never thought about it like that. I'm just
Right.
out here just, you know what I mean? So I think it's good getting at that veteran leadership, man. And you know what I mean? Not only that, you know what I mean, he's working with D Ware and all these veterans, you know what I mean? So for a guy like Micah, that's big. And then like Tyler Smith, you know what I mean? Like people would think, what is the lineman doing over in the pass rushing, but he's learning from the other side of a hand placement. When I'm coming in and I'm doing this is what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? So for a young guy to get those type of reps in, you know what I mean, that's invaluable, you know what I mean? So I love to see it. And then, you know what I mean, George Kittle was another guy who spoke out about a recent camp and he mentioned Jake Ferguson. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You was recently talking about Travis Kelsey, talking about him. So these young guys is going and they working, you know what I mean, over there, man. They being noticed. So it's definitely something that's good to see, man. But I love to see Tyler. I seen him throwing out the first pitch in the Rangers game. Looked like he's a little bit bigger, a little bit older. You know, he got the baby face over there. But you know what I mean, I love it though. I think both guys are up for a huge year. I think Micah talking how he's talking, it's crazy to say he's about to take another huge leap. But I think Tyler Smith this year playing guard, if he can stick at left guard and he's not forced to go out to left tackle, I think he'll have all pro season this year.
Ooh, I like that a lot. With Tyler Smith, man, that wasn't the sexy pick last year, and we were all kind of down on it. But I mean, he shut us up pretty quickly, and the best way to learn your side of the ball is to really understand the other side of the ball, man. And to the fact that he's in there
Right.
doing that, I mean, shows that he's willing to learn and learn the right way, So no, that makes me very happy.
Yeah, so speaking of players getting work, man. So this past week we saw that, and then we also was able to get a glimpse of Dak Prescott. He's running his workouts. We see Tobin in there getting that work. He seems to be what I mean heavily involved. He's been with Dak all off season, even before the OTAs and all of that, even at his house in the backyard, things like that. So he's continuing to get that work. We see CeeDee Lamb, of course, continuing to build that chemistry. But one guy that just kind of stood out. I'm like, damn, is that Zeke? So Zeke is still in there in the mix. I don't know if it's me a thing of I mean they're working on something behind the scenes. I don't know if Dak has that much pull. I mean we all know Zeke is his guy or whatnot, but I thought that was interesting to see.
No, I think with Dak and Zeke, man, this is probably a very hard situation. Those are two guys that came into the league together. They're brothers, man. You saw them on Hard Knocks getting each other birthday gifts, and
Yeah,
the chemistry is there. Unfortunately for Zeke, like those legs just kind of went pretty quickly. But if I still would love to have Zeke back in Dallas. I'd take him over Ronald Jones any day of the week, but he would have to be okay with being RB2 or RB3. But I don't want that to take away from our potential fullbacks workload, because you do got to get younger on the team. And then when you get younger, you get cheaper, which helps you keep the guys that will be there in the future. So I don't know which direction we head with Zeke, man, but I would gladly welcome him back in Dallas.
And I'm glad you said so, but I just feel like as a whole, I don't feel like the reception in Dallas among, the fans and the community would be as welcoming, as some of us are. And I think the ones like us, that they kind of look past, him as a, of course he's not Zeke of old, we used to see him leaping over people all the time, and he lost his breakaway ability and things like that. But I think he was very unappreciated in the sense of this was a guy who always got the dirty yards, 4th and 1, third
Right.
and 1. He didn't have the biggest yards per carry, but when we needed that yard and we needed those touchdowns, he got it. Like people say, yeah, of course you get 12 touchdowns when you're getting 1 or 2 yards, but it's not easy. People act like you just run to the goal line and it's just easy to just get in there every time. This is a guy who has a nose for it. And the league has a spot for guys like that. Every team needs a guy who gets the dirty yards, and Zeke is that guy.
Yeah.
So just don't be surprised if we was to go into this thing, go into the season, and we realize like somewhere we lack in this damn goal line. 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. When Tony goes out, can Malik Davis be that guy? Can Deuce, a smaller guy, be that guy? There's a lot of questions, and he may be unappreciated in that sense, but don't be surprised if it's something that the Cowboys are still lacking if we don't kind of get that showed up before the season start.
And one thing I'll say too, Zeke's production no longer matched his price tag, but his production was still important, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
And when you take away that chemistry, that's priceless. So what we do know, like you said, he was selfless in the sense of like, yeah, I'll put my head down and I'll go get you this yard or two. But if he can come in there and play, focus more on the team aspect than the me aspect, come in here at a decent price. He's already making 10 million to go away. And if he comes back, maybe he gets a vet minimum deal. He'll still make north of 10 million this year. So I'm excited to see what happens there, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. I love Zeke though, so I hate to see a guy like that just out there hanging around, but I'm also happy to see him still with some of the guys, man. Just some other things though. I'm just thinking you hear of CJ Stroud, young quarterback coming into the league, and how often do we hear some of these players get compared to Dak? Like leadership ability, he definitely like reminds me of Dak in that aspect. I hear that a lot. And he's kind of become like that bottom end for that, like the, the example that players want to use. And then, he comes out. Well, I ain't gonna say he comes out, but CJ Stroud, he gets that review. And then a Cole Beasley comes out and was like, look, if he's getting compared to Dak, then that's big because, by far, that's the most leadership, I've ever seen out of anybody I ever played with. And this is a guy who played with a Tom Brady, who played with a Josh Allen.
Romo as well.
Romo as well. And he spoke that highly of Dak. He's pretty much saying there's levels to this and saying, Dak is that dude. So I thought that was dope to see.
No, and it's crazy because is Dak overpaid? I don't think so. I think it makes sense with the way the quarterback market works. But, those intangibles that they talk about with Dak Prescott, that's priceless, man. And a player that is as selfless as a Dak Prescott, is what you kind of are looking for. Does the talent match the price tag? No. But can it? Absolutely. Because Dak, he's in the lab, he's cooking, he's trying to improve every single day.
Yeah.
And he leads by example, which is what you're looking for in a quarterback.
Yeah, man. I kind of love like the negative attention that he gets. I mean, I hate it because you want to kind of just hop out there and defend the guy every chance you get.
Sure.
But people do not understand. He had no weapons. They forget that, week 1, man, we rolled out Dennis Houston.
Yeah.
Noah Brown, and CeeDee, man. And for a huge chunk of it, Dalton Schultz, he wasn't really healthy. He really had no weapons. All he had was CeeDee. So yes, he had the interceptions, but they kind of like to not talk about the ones that wasn't his fault. They would rather talk about in the space of every interception was, Dak's fault. But they don't talk about the guys like, Josh Allen and similar, or Dak failed in the playoffs. So he didn't do this. But when he get compared to some of those other guys, it kind of like moving the goalposts. Or like he hasn't won, but then Herbert is up there a little bit higher than him because
Sure.
Well, what have Herbert done? Has he won? So I think it's crazy to see, man, but I kind of like the idea of him just Mike McCarthy getting with him. They working through these interceptions, and obviously a guy that always had that chip on his shoulder. I'm hoping that he just kind of take that, harness that a little bit, and he just has one of those type of years that I truly believe he'll have, man. And speaking to that, I just have a list, man. So I was looking at Chris Sims' list, and I just want to run through some of those names for you and where does Dak land in this, and some of the guys that's ahead of him, and tell me what you think. So first off, number one, I see Patrick Mahomes,
Sure.
Joe Burrow at 2, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson around out your top 5. Trevor Lawrence at 6, Jalen Hurts at 7, Aaron Rodgers at 8, Deshaun Watson at 9, Matthew Stafford at 10, Daniel Jones at 11, Kirk Cousins at 12, and Dak all the way down to 13. Talk to me about that, man. How you
Well,
feel about that?
first and foremost, if I was grading this list, I'm going to give him an F because
Yeah.
in what world is Daniel Jones a better quarterback than Dak Prescott? In what world is Matthew Stafford a better quarterback than Dak Prescott? Used to be, absolutely. Today, I don't see it. Matthew Stafford's on his last leg. If I could just reshuffle this list a little bit, I don't have Justin Herbert at 4. I actually would move him out of the top 8 or 9. Rodgers, I think he deserves to be there. Deshaun at 9, I get it, but what he did last year doesn't equal that. You know, so if we're going off of recency bias, which I think you should do, because I don't agree with Deshaun Watson last year at 9, I would have to put Dak in the top 10. But to put them in order 1 through 10, that's very difficult. I don't think that Dak is top 5. I'll say that out loud.
But he's for sure top 10, right?
Absolutely, top 10.
Right? Yeah.
And that what that tells me is, so if you have Dak at 13, you're telling me that there's only like 18 teams that would take Dak? No, I think there's 20 to 25 teams in the NFL that would take Dak over what they currently have.
And it's disrespectful. Like I'm kind of in between. Like, are you doing this for clickbait, or do you really feel this way about Dak? Like, it's okay, you know what I mean? If you truly feel this way, then I want to know how. Like, it's not necessarily the order, but some of these guys, like, hell no, I'm not taking a Daniel Jones over a Dak Prescott. I'm not taking a Kirk Cousins over Dak, and I'm damn sure not taking Matt Stafford. I remember those lists last year after he won the Super Bowl. They were saying put him at 5 or 6. I said I'm still not taking him over Dak.
Yeah.
So I just think it's crazy, like the disrespect he gets, and that, you know what I mean, they don't really compare him in the same light to some of these quarterbacks. It's like, as always, if you want to compare him to this guy, well, what about this guy and what he's done?
Right.
It's cool. If you want to harp on interceptions, do that. But you know what I mean, like I said, I put a chip on his shoulder, man. I feel like it's definitely some disrespect there. And then I goes list, he's dropped the top. So we have 4 guys on that list. You know, Micah Parsons fell in there at 8. Zach Martin at 25, CeeDee Lamb at 48. Good for CeeDee. Stephon Gilmore is at 75, and that rounds out everybody. And then an honorable mention went to a Dak Prescott, who is no longer viewed as a top 100 player to some people. So I thought that was crazy, as a slight to Dak as well. But then to another guy, Trayvon Diggs. So in a similar light, do you feel Trayvon Diggs is disrespected, you know what I mean, across the league right now?
No, I love that for Trayvon Diggs, man. And I understand it because he didn't put up the numbers that he did last season. But he didn't put up those numbers he did last season because quarterbacks didn't want to throw that way. There was an easier option on the other side of the field to throw the ball that way. So what that tells me is, whose list is this?
This is Pete Prisco's over at CBS Sports.
No, so to me, when the players drop their list, man, I can see Trayvon being on there. I can see Dak being on there because those are the guys that actually you're gonna have quarterbacks on that list talking about, nah, Trayvon is that guy. Why do you think he didn't have the picks? I ain't throwing over there. You know what I mean? So don't let the stats skew it, because similar to DeMarcus Lawrence, you know, after he got that big payday, we were like, bro, what is going on with DeMarcus? But then if you sit back and you look at it, he's getting double teamed. He's catching all the bodies. He's creating the lanes for the other guys. The year that who was it? Randy Gregory kind of went off. That's because D-Law created the opportunity.
And Micah.
And Micah, you're right. Yeah. But I mean, with Trayvon, I don't think it's disrespect. I just think that there's people that make these lists that don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah. So I just thought it was crazy to see, man. You seeing that, and I'm just like, man, I just hope these guys are taking that and, you know, kind of take. I mean, I know they are, though. You know, I don't think they need much motivation. Dak, he's playing for his next contract. Trayvon Diggs, he's in the midst of contract talks right now. He's working on his next contract. So I agree with you in the sense of, You know, I mean, they don't need much motivation. They're gonna come out here. I love it for them as well. So as far as anything else, man, that I've seen, I'm just thinking I wanted to talk about wide receiver trios around the league and where would you kind of place Dallas in the midst of this with, you know, I mean, the addition of Brandon Cooks at the moment.
I think, off the top, I'm just thinking about Minnesota, Miami, Philadelphia. Those got to be top 3 in whatever order. Am I missing somebody else there?
But we talking trios, so it's like you say Miami. I give you Miami. You know, Waddle, Hill, shit, toss the third guy in there. I don't, you know what I mean? Minnesota, I can't. I mean, they lost to Dillon. Do you put Addison and Osborne and Jefferson up there as a trio? I can't really say that.
No, you're right.
Philly, possibly. You know what I mean? AJ, they got some guys over there.
Cincinnati,
of course. Yeah. Now Cincinnati is up there. If you give me Boyd, Higgins, and Chase,
that's the best
yeah,
trio.
I'm probably taking that one right there. But I would have to say Dallas is top 5 now. I think Cooks, Gallup, especially if he's coming back and resurfacing to the player we think he is, I think they can be top 3. You know what I mean? Not just 5.
I'll say it like this: top 5. I won't make that statement now. Potentially, of course. I just can't picture it all off the top of my head. I'll say this is the best trio that Dak Prescott has had. Maybe. I mean, the Amari Cooper year, CeeDee was very young. CeeDee was very young. You know, he hadn't really developed much yet. Amari was so good for us. So good for Dak Prescott. But this is the most exciting trio we've had in a while. I won't say it's the best trio, but in the last 2 or 3 years, you know, this is the most exciting offense I think the Dallas Cowboys have had. So, no, I like your thought process there. But I think that's all contingent on if Gallup really is himself again.
I think he will be, man. I don't think the reason, I think, man, more than anything, forget what anybody else say. What do you say? You know, last offseason, I didn't really mean every time I heard him speak, it was always, hey, I'm just trying to work back. I'm just trying to get back to myself. I'm just trying to, you know, rehab, taking one day at a time. This year is more so like I felt like he's him again. And as long as he's talking like that, because it's about the guy that's talking, you know what I mean, the belief he has in himself. So as long as Gallup is feeling like Gallup, he's talking like that, and you add that into what the coaches are saying, I'm gonna have to take that into account and believe, you know what I mean, he's about to, you know, have a bounce back year, man. If he does that, I think Cooks is about to take off, and CeeDee, I just think the leap he's about to take is about to be. I think CeeDee could take whatever you want to say. I think he's about to move into that top 5 conversation among the league.
I agree with that one. Before we get out of here, don't forget to hit us in that mailbag. We're trying to get the conversations going. You know, hit us up on Twitter if you like what you see. Like, share, and subscribe. You got any final words?
Yeah, man, and yeah, definitely hit us up in the DM, man. You know, I mean, whatever questions you got, we'll let engage with y'all. Not just Dallas. We talk all around the league. You know, I mean, whether it's this or fantasy, whatever. Feel free to reach out. Make sure y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Stay tuned, man. End Zone Experience, man. We'll be back next week for sure.